Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the program. August 14th, 2015 marks the 80th anniversary, or if you will, the 80th birthday of Social Security. We will be talking about Social Security this week with our good friend Nancy Altman, head of Social Security Works. We will also have a few comments about Social Security in a moment. But first, I want to point you to something that you may not have noticed or heard about, which is that the Chicago Tribune this week wrote in an op-ed, published an op-ed, rather, that said that Hurricane Katrina was good for New Orleans. The op-ed was written by a member of the Tribune's editorial board named Kristen McQuarrie. It drew immediate backlash online, and it was quickly scrubbed and changed. Some of the more offensive passages were removed, but nevertheless, it is an indicator of the mind state of majority America, well, let's just say it, white America, in 2015, that it is possible to publish in a major newspaper a op-ed which says, among other things, I find myself wishing for a storm in Chicago. An unpredictable, haughty, devastating swirl of fury, a dramatic levee break, geysers bursting through manhole covers, a sleeping city forced onto the rooftops. That's what it took to hit the reset button in New Orleans. Chaos, tragedy, heartbreak. So we are now at the point where the suffering and death of a largely African-American city becomes a rhetorical device for a right-leaning editorial. This is incredible insensitivity. And by the way, what was it that seemed to be worth such terrible sacrifice to Kristen McQuarrie, a member of the Tribune editorial board? What was she hoping to get at? Well, things like this. The fact that the school district in New Orleans is now entirely being driven through privatized. Chicago, she says, faces financial challenges that threaten its future. Decades of overspending and borrowing tear at its very stability. It is the gravest issue, more than crime, more than education, more than poverty. Overspending and borrowing, according to this frame of mind, are more serious issues than the education of our children, the poverty of our people, or the crime which keeps us unsafe on the streets. Now, I won't torture you by going through this entire editorial, but you get the gist. This is the world we live in. This is why we need better understanding of some basic humanitarian facts, such as the notion that Black lives do in fact matter. Now, as far as Social Security is concerned, I want to give you a quote from a Republican member of Congress spoken in 1935. The lash of the dictator will be felt, the Republican said. Was he talking about the rise of fascism in Europe or the oppression of African Americans in the South? No, he was talking about the possibility that the Social Security Act might soon become law. The lash of the dictator is how he characterized Social Security, America's most popular and most successful government program. Crazy, right? Nobody could say anything like that today. Well, here's what a Fox News commentator said today. Quote, Social Security is the delinquent child of the left that grew up to be an evil dictator. Dictator? A program that was created by popularly elected politicians, a program that enjoys massive support among voters, is all of a sudden a dictatorship? Look, polls have shown over and over again that Americans love Social Security, which provides benefits at much lower cost and much greater efficiency than any similar program in the private sector. Now, the Republican candidate for president in 1936, Alf Landon, called it, quote, a fraud on the working man, and said, quote, the saving it forces is a cruel hoax. Alf Landon got hammered in the 1936 election because voters overwhelmingly disagreed with him and agreed with the entire legislative agenda of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Now, Republicans are too smart nowadays to really go out and say what they think about Social Security, which is A, they hate it ideologically because it is a successful government program, and B, their rich patrons don't want to pay more in taxes. So instead, they're trying to convince you that it's going broke. It's not, that we can't afford to expand its benefits. We can if we lift the payroll tax cap and make a couple other minor adjustments. There is much to be done. There is much to celebrate on this, the birthday of Social Security. So happy birthday, Social Security. Happy birthday, everyone. And we'll be back after this. I'm Richard RJ Eskow, and this is The Zero Hour.